This is Solo Travel Talk. Your solo travel advisor is Astrid Clements.
It's a Tony destination within Fort Lauderdale. Las Olas is more than restaurants, more than shops, and your solo travel advisor, Astrid Clements, is going to explain it all. I'm producer Catherine O'Brien. Can a specific street or district give you a new way to view a city? Let's get Astrid's take on it while we explore lovely Las Olas. Astrid, how did you find Las Olas, and what are some of the highlights of this district?
Well, Catherine, for the last 6 or 7 years, I have had the good fortune to travel to Fort Lauderdale for a finance and housing conference. I do still do some community work with my community. I serve on a finance authority board. So we go there every year to listen to all the experts from New York and the financial industry, as well as Washington, et cetera, what's going on in financing and housing. Every time I go, I always try to use my free time to do something fun or interesting or shop. Because in this area of Southern Florida, I mean, the shopping is fabulous. In fact, if you like really upscale designer goods, there are many places where you can find discounts on these types of goods, whether they're new or vintage. And shopping is, I mean, you just don't get this kind of opportunity. So, I have known about Las Olas Street since my prior trip research, but it really wasn't high enough on my free time list. But this year I decided I was going to make it a priority because, from the research, it sounded to me that it did have some kind of mystique to it, some quality to it. And so this was the year that I made myself, or I chose to go there. Now, a little background about Las Olas Street or Boulevard in the area known as Las Olas or the Las Olas District in downtown Fort Lauderdale. Basically, this area, right kind of on the middle of the street, right on the canal that goes out to the Intercoastal Waterway, is where Fort Lauderdale started. There was a gentleman by the name of Stranahan who set up a trading post there, and I guess he worked with, I would imagine there were Native American Indians in the area, but it probably was also some kind of smuggling or whatever, whiskey, running rum or that kind of thing out of there. But it started kind of back off of the Atlantic and Intercoastal. And he had this, it's a beautiful plantation, old historic plantation home there now, but it was a trading post, the post office, the community center, etc. So Mr. Strahan, basically, he was the founder of Las Olas. It kind of started with this Florida type of pioneerism, and from that, all of his business activities, other people ended up coming and settling there, and they paved Las Olas Boulevard or Las Olas Street, and that really was the first street in downtown, or the main street in downtown Fort Lauderdale. Now it's basically 17 blocks long, and what you have is the older or the more historic feel of Las Olas Street, and then the new area where there are just these magnificent high-rise, state-of-the-art, gorgeous condominiums, mixed-use developments. So you got a kind of an old feel, colonial Florida feel, and a very modern shishi feel, and everybody filters down on Las Olas Street for their activity. Now, in the older part, Las Olas, the street has been kind of touted as the Worth Avenue of Fort Lauderdale. And if you know anything about Worth Avenue in Palm Beach, I mean, this is a 5-block, 7-block long street that has the greatest designer shopping. Such a small area in the United States. I think it's better than Rodeo Drive. I mean, Worth Avenue, that's the mother lode. And it, you know, you don't have to get in your car. You just drive down there and you can see all the latest and greatest if that's what you really like. Plus, they have some really good restaurants, and the architecture is really South Florida. I mean, Palm Beach, I love Palm Beach. Old Palm Beach, it feels like a village still, but everything is such high quality. Well, this part of Las Olas Street has somewhat of that feel. You know, you've got shops, you've got restaurants, you've got fine art galleries, you've got the historic Riverside Hotel, which was opened in 1936. It's still owned by the original family, and they've kept it up. It's a delightful historic hotel, luxury, not super luxury, but very, very nice. I mean, I think any solo traveler who is in Fort Lauderdale and doesn't want to stay on the beach, that's a good alternative. I mean, I would be happy to stay there. Some of the great shops, I mean, you know, it is kind of a upscale, I guess you would say, boutique type of shopping experience. You've got the Lily Pulitzer there shop, if you like Lily Pulitzer, which started actually in Palm Beach. I mean, this shop, it can rival the one in Palm Beach. It is great. So you've got if you like that kind of, I guess you'd say, classic South Florida beach clothing with lots of tropical colors and prints, etc. But it's also quite modern now. I mean, I almost bought. I was so tempted, but I thought I don't need another one. But she had this really beautiful kind of brushed gold tote. Oh, it was beautiful. And then the shoes to match, some espadrilles. I thought, oh my gosh, that looks real good.
Well, that sounds so Florida.
Oh yeah, but it was upscale, but it was relaxed, and it could really go the distance. I mean, you could wear that with clothes that aren't kind of Florida-like. It was very well designed, I thought. Great Lily Pulitzer store. Then they've got Carol's Jewelers there, and you know, in an area where there are a lot of people who are moneyed, they've got some wonderful jewelry shops that even if you don't want to buy anything and you like jewelry, it's just fun to go look at it. They also have Andre Dupree's luxury designer handbag consignment. Oh, yeah. Now, like in Palm Beach has a lot of consignment shops. I mean, I have done a whole blog post about it because if you want like consignment or vintage types of things, go to Palm Beach. But let me tell you, this store, this designer handbag consignment, it was really good too, and the prices were priced right, and none of the merchandise was stained or beat up. It was you would have if you would have liked something and it would be in your price range. The quality in terms of condition and everything was quite good. And then you got Tommy Bahama and Mouse and Hoffman for the men, etc. So the shops are upscale, but they have a real boutique-like feel. Restaurants galore. And they're small, kind of ethnic-oriented restaurants because the people who live in this area and who go down to Las Olas Street every day, they love to eat, they love to sit outside, and they love to socialize. These restaurants are geared to that. But some of them actually, the cuisine, is touted as world class. I mean, the quality here is much better than I actually thought it was.
Pleasantly surprised.
I really was. So they have Rococo's Taco and Tequila Bar. I mean, it was packed. It was packed. People were sitting outside, and you could hear the mariachi music and everything. You got Wild Sea Oyster Bar and Grill. I mean, there's just fabulous seafood in this area. But this Wild Sea Oyster Bar and Grill, people, it is the place to go for oysters. Lobster Bar Sea Grill, very upscale seafood restaurant. Mangoes, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about Mangoes because I stumbled into Mangoes, which turned out to be one of those happy solo travel surprises. It is like a happening place. And I mean, when I tell you, it is like, ooh. Then you've got Cafe Europa. You've got Kilowinds, which I think Kilowinds actually this is their only outlet, but their ice cream, homemade ice cream, chocolate, and fudge. Then they have Hoffman's Chocolate Shop, which is definitely all made there. I mean, beautiful, beautiful chocolates. I mean, like what you get in Europe. Oh, then this one. I went back 2 times to this. Well, the first day I went there, and the second day I was there. I had to go back. But Pane Dolce Gelato and Italian sweets and pastries. And when I tell you it's to die for, this is as good as it gets for Italian gelato. I mean, the flavors, it was so out of this world. I didn't want it to end. So that's why I came back the next day. But their pastries and their sweets, just fabulous. And I got some very strong illy espresso with it. Oh, it was really to die for. I'm telling you, it's enough to make you want to go get on the plane. Go to Fort Lauderdale.
We'll have to tell them how much you loved it. Yeah.
B Square Restaurant. This is gourmet burgers, beer, and craft cocktail. And this is it's so popular, I thought this is like a college hangout, but it was really much more an older crowd there. But they had the fans going, and everybody's outside, and they are seizing the day. So great restaurants, and a lot of them with all a special twist or a special hook. And all of them have a very long happy hour. It starts at 4, not 5, and goes to 7. And it is very well priced, very high quality drinks, etc. Basically, the people on Las Olas get started early. And they can't wait. It's a wonderful variety, really, of bars, cantinas, and wine bars. So you can find any kind of alcoholic libation that you can imagine on La Sola Street, and really some very high quality spirits. Okay, just a little bit more in terms of retail on Las Olas. Wonderful galleries and antique shops. They've got the Blue Gallery, which specializes in contemporary art, Sienna Fine Art Gallery, a National Geographic Fine Art Gallery, which I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but you don't see many of those. And those are, whenever you see one, go in there, because if you like photography, this is as good as it gets. It's fabulous. Daniel Antiques, which they have a lot of telescopes and lots of in nautical types of antiques, lots of different things in there. Also, 2 more. You've got NG Fine Art Gallery and Las Olas Fine Art. So really, if you're an art lover or you're a collector, you'll enjoy going to these galleries on Las Olas because they're really quite fine. And for some reason, I think there are actually more art galleries on Las Olas than there are in Palm Beach. Yes, they have a lot of very nice art galleries and places, antique here on Las Olas. So that's also, if you're into that. Then personal care. They don't have a whole lot of that, or at least I didn't see it. But I did, there was a Blue Mercury. And if you're not familiar with Blue Mercury, it is a skincare and spa concept, which they have these stores. I think they have about 10 outlets in the United States, but they are a small Sephora. They don't have nearly what they have in Sephora, but it has the best of the best. I'll never forget the first time I saw one was in Highland Park in Dallas. And so I went in and I was talking to the lady who was running the store, and I said, "What's so great about this?" And she began to tell me, she said, "Look, we have the best top of the line skincare products that the women in Dallas use." And I was thinking, the women in Dallas, they are extraordinarily well maintained. And so if this shop, she was saying this is what they use, and it's in Highland Park, which you can't get any tonier than that. I thought, ooh, yeah. So, yeah, I asked her more about it, and she ended up telling me. I said, well, what's the magic product? And there is some kind of little wipe that you wipe every night on your face, and it's basically an exfoliant, but it does a lot of different things, and I bought it, and I still do it every night. And then also you can get a free facial and everything. But these Blue Mercury, if you see one and you're interested in really the finest, highest quality of the different types of skin products and facial, spa, etc., stop by in there. Yeah, it's really good. Then you've got teas, salon and spa for hair, pedicure, nails, everything. So you've got personal care. And I'm sure there are probably a couple of others, especially in those mixed-use communities, those high-rise condos, but I didn't see it immediately on Las Olas Street. And if you need a cigar, they've got Havana Republic Cigar Depot, and it's a place where you can buy very fine cigars, and you can actually sit outside and smoke one. So, it's not verboten, or they don't put you back somewhere, or, the people who still smoke, unfortunately, they really do get a raw deal because there's no real good places for them to smoke, which, maybe that's really good. They don't smoke as much. But if you like fine cigars, they have got a great place to get them, and you can sit outside and enjoy and have a drink and have a smoke. Okay, the newer part of Las Olas really is what I call fabulous mixed-use, high-rise condo developments, and they are gorgeous. And with this building, it really made a completely new, added invigoration and juice into Las Olas. So that is what has really spurred these smaller kind of unique restaurants and boutique stores and art galleries to survive and thrive, because what this has done, it has brought a lot of seniors have retired there, as well as international investors and tourists have second homes there. So this has become a really unique area of old and new. They've preserved some of the older part of Las Olas, where I just talked about these shops, etc. And then you have the other part, which is still on the canal, that is just modern and fabulous, and has brought a lot of money into there. It's really, really, I think, a very special place. I mean, it's got that relaxed Florida sophistication. That's what I could say. I want to say it felt a little bit more real than in Palm Beach, because in Palm Beach, sometimes you don't know if these people are really moneyed or they're just looking for something. You know what I'm saying? But then some of them are like, I'll never forget, and this might be kind of a little bit of a tacky story, but this is Palm Beach, or just a little snippet of it. I was in this restaurant called Taboo, and I love Taboo. Every time I go to Palm Beach, I have lunch at Taboo. Well, I was in this restaurant, and I was seated back in the back. I had been talking to 3 young guys. They were there because one of them was an interior designer, one of them was a hairdresser in Miami, and I don't know who the other one was, but they were here. The interior designer worked with this ultra famous interior designer who had just redone a fabulous home in Palm Beach, and they were going to have this big soiree the next night. Oh, I mean, we had the best time talking. And in fact, the hairdresser said, look, when you go to Miami, just come, I'll cut your hair for free. But we just had this fun time. Well, after they left, I was sitting around and I looked to the other side and I saw this round table. And there was this older gentleman and this older lady, and then a younger woman. And I couldn't understand what this threesome was all about. And I wasn't really trying to, I guess psychologically, get into their behavior. But, after about 10 minutes, the older gentleman said, well, I have, some other things that I want to do. And I thought to myself, I wonder what's on his agenda. But I want you to take care of Lily or whoever was sitting there talking to this younger woman and, whatever she needs and make sure she's, gets back or whatever. And it hit me. The younger lady was a lady sitter, just like a babysitter for older women. And she wasn't super old, but she was extremely well coiffed and dressed. And I mean, I could imagine she's probably, could be royalty of some sort from Europe. But this is what happens when you live that lifestyle. You have a lady sitter. But Fort Lauderdale, I wouldn't think you would see lady sitters. Yeah. I mean, it just had a little bit more authentic feel, but very upmarket, very nice. So that kind of, I hope that answers your question. I love to go off on some of my stories because when I travel by myself, well, I do meet very interesting people. And then, when you are solo, you do observe more because you don't have other people that you're talking to or that you're distracted. So you see little subtle things that you wouldn't see. I would have never noticed that threesome, if those guys wouldn't have left and I still was eating. And then, then it piqued my interest. I was saying, what's going on over here?
The observant. You get to be observant. When you're solo travel.
Oh, yeah. It is fun.
I noticed that on the Los Olas Association website that there are a string of festivals coming up, and it really looks like they're trying to be a center of activity, food, shopping, and special events. So all the things you've been describing, but then they're trying to bring in these events specifically too.
Yeah, because first of all, there's been a tremendous amount of money invested in revitalizing this area. So they constantly have to have things for people to do and enjoy. I mean, these businesses have to keep their owners happy and they have to be profitable. And they want the people that, whether they're residents or tourists, to get hooked on the Los Olas district vibe. So they have to have fun things going on. I mean, you can't just have a bunch of restaurants and shops. After a while, it'll get old hat. So if there are all kinds of different things going on, that keeps new life, new energy, in the area. Some of the special festivals and events that they do every year is one is coming up on, I think it's April the 20th. It's the Los Olas Wine and Food Festival. Oh, I bet that is going to be fabulous. Oh, I mean, I wish I would have been there during that, not during spring break.
I know.
Okay. And then they have annual art fairs, and they have more of those than once a year. And, Southern Florida, Naples, Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, they have a lot of these art fairs, and they're fun to go to. I mean, even if you don't buy anything, they really are a nice experience.
Well, when you drew my attention to the fact that there are so many art galleries in this area, and when I was looking at the festivals and the art festivals specifically coming up, they are not art in the park kind of events. They are really fine art. They look very special.
Oh, yeah. No, this is what I'm trying to say in a very tactful way. This is a very moneyed area, but it's got a relaxed Florida sophistication feel, but they're quite discriminating. I mean, they have homes. I'm going to talk about some of the homes on the canals that are, the prices of them are astronomical. They're like, incredible. And there's a reason for that. Some of their annual events they've got a great Christmas holidays on Las Olas. I bet that is great
so cool,
too.
Yeah.
St. Patrick's Day parade and festival. And one really unique thing they do, and I've heard this being done in different places, and it sounds like so much fun. I really would like to do it because I always think I can figure anything out. But they have what's called Clueless on Las Olas, and it's an annual fundraiser and a big street party, and the focus of it is a murder mystery game.
Oh, how fun.
Oh, yeah. You have to solve the clues and who done it. And this part of Florida, like I said, it has these canals, and it's kind of tucked off of the intercoastal and Atlantic. You can just feel that. I bet you there are a lot of things that were on the wrong side of the law that went down, and maybe a few murders with it. So, because of the foliage and everything, it's like one street off of Las Olas. You have homes and things like that, and then you have the canal on the next block, but it's got all this rich vegetation. So it feels real, Florida, kind of swampy, but not totally swamp. So, but if you really want to know everything that's going on Las Olas, they have a great website that, will tell you everything about the upcoming events and, and festivals. And that might be a good thing, a way for you to decide when you want to go to Fort Lauderdale if you want to stay in this area.
Astrid, I like to get a little bit philosophical sometimes. And I'm wondering, do you think that there is a little bit of a bigger story here about a city changing its persona or its vibe, to use the Astrid way of describing it, when we're considering Fort Lauderdale and Las Olas?
Oh, yes, definitely. To me, it's a very compelling story. How basically Las Olas area and all of downtown Fort Lauderdale is changing its persona and vibe. I mean, Fort Lauderdale to me in the past was always really a less expensive, less luxurious, less sophisticated alternative to Miami or Palm Beach. I thought, Fort Lauderdale is just a bunch of cheap hotels and spring breakers. And every time I'd go, I'd rent a car and I'd go to Palm Beach or I'd go to Miami. I really wouldn't spend any time in Fort Lauderdale because that's really the feel that I had. And always this conference was at the West End on the beach. And, I had walked that street on the beach a couple of times, but, that is not really my cup of tea. I mean, I don't mind it one time and maybe for the evening walking down to a cafe or whatever. But, I like a lot more stimulation than just that. Well, I think what really sparked all of the change in Fort Lauderdale was the expansion of the cruise ship terminals and the yachting docks and harbors, because the bigger ships can come in there and they can put more ships can dock in there than just the one canal-like shipping lane in Miami, which they're expanding now. But Fort Lauderdale, they had lots of money pour in because of that. So I think, and this is something that I learned, in Fort Lauderdale, the depth of the coastal waterway, etc., they can bring those huge yachts in. I mean, the biggest and the most expensive yachts in the world can be harbored in there, as well as they have so many now unbelievably large mansions right on those canals where they park these $100 million yachts and more. Oh, you should see them. They are like aircraft carriers. I mean, they're something else. They are something to see, and some of them are so modern. They're absolutely gorgeous. I can't imagine anybody wanting to spend that kind of money, but I guess if you have so much money, you can't even count it all. But they can be moored and docked there. So that's brought a lot of money to this area, and a lot of people who, family and friends who know these people who live in that and who, the mega wealthy. So that's really what spurred it, I think. In Las Olas, in this district, what was so good about it is they already had like the infrastructure in terms of the waterways, in terms of the streets, in terms of some of the, I guess you'd say sewer and water, not totally, but they didn't have to recreate a whole area. It already had a good feel, and the location was so perfect. It was tucked away, kind of away from a lot of traffic, and it had that feel of Florida. So, I think that is what changed the dynamic or the persona and the vibe. And what has happened now is a combination, like I said, of old and new. People describe Fort Lauderdale, or this area of Fort Lauderdale, this Las Olas downtown district now, as the Venice of America. Because these canals now are all lined with these fabulous luxury homes or architecture or yachts or whatever. Let me tell you, it's one of a kind. Now, you have that in Palm Beach and in Naples to a certain extent, but this is tucked into that. It is really, really, it's very nice. And that's why it's become what it is. Another thing that I think is changed this whole persona and the vibe and has made it wonderful is you really don't need a car. You don't need a car. If you live in this area or you just travel to this area, and you're staying there as a tourist, I was at the West End again on the beach. Well, they have a fabulous water taxi that takes you from the beach to downtown.
Oh, how fun. So
you never are caught with those drawbridges. You're never caught with the traffic. And let me tell you, in Fort Lauderdale, the way it's configured with the canals and the intercoastal and then getting out to where the beach hotels are, you are always getting in a traffic jam. In fact, I almost missed a flight one time because of it. But you don't need a car, which I think, that's so wonderful. Yeah. And then you've got trolleys, and these trolleys go all over that area and outside. And, of course, buses, Uber, and taxis. So you can live in this area, have a fabulous lifestyle, or visit here, and there's no need for a car at all. And you can get to the beach. You can get all over. I think that's fantastic, to tell you the truth. So the Las Olas lifestyle, as they call it, is really what I consider the modern vibe for the area. And it's a combination of historic and contemporary, I would say also quaint but cool. And that's hard. That's hard
to strike, yeah.
Yeah, but they've done it here. So that's my long answer to your persona or vibe.
Yeah.
Yes, it's really changed. And it's changed because of this investment coming from all of this cruise ship and yachting and shipping types of tourist activities, etc. And with that has brought a lot of money in the redevelopment, international investors, more international tourists. They might not want to go to Miami. Now they have a place. And this place has more of like it's got the feel is I want to say just more authentic in a certain way.
Well, you did kind of capture that. I took note of that when you were talking about Las Olas, that I think sometimes people get a little afraid when they hear about these developments because they think it's just going to be sort of any town. But that's not what's happening here. This feels more like there are individual shops, individual boutiques, one-of-a-kind restaurants. It's very unique. It's not this sort of cookie-cutter, every town shopping center.
No, it really isn't. And that's why I liked it so much.
Well, and also I think, too, the bringing in of events, like making it a cultural center, making it an activity center, I think that that's really key for these communities to have these places feel special and really be something different and can be a center of your city, which is, it's important to have that kind of central calling point. Yeah,
because what it's doing, it's building community through socializing and having fun.
Yeah.
And especially when you get older, if you're retired or if you're a tourist or if this is your second home, you want to get to know people. And this is one good way of doing it. And that leads to another. And it makes it a special place.
And especially I think in this not to sound in this time when I think too people feel more isolated, it's nice to have something that we can all gather together and enjoy collectively.
Oh yeah, this is a beautiful little area of the United States. It really is, because it still has a feeling of warm, convivial spirit, but it's very upscale too. You know what I'm saying?
That's
nice. It's not like hanging out in the. This is really, really nice.
They've achieved something with the quality here, it sounds like.
Yeah, they've done it right.
Okay, we know that the Solo Travel Talk listener loves to get your tips, Astrid. How would you suggest that a solo traveler enjoy Las Olas?
Okay, first of all, you want to relax and enjoy your experience when you come to the Las Olas district. So you want to allot at least a whole day.
Really?
Oh, yeah. What I did is I came after noon, and so I had to come back twice because I couldn't do everything. Oh, no. And you don't want to rush because there's lots of little things you want to go in and out of, unless you don't have the time. But to really get the experience, you ought to spend a whole day and just take your time. Yeah, you'll say, oh, this is definitely not spring break in Fort Lauderdale. Some of those worn out hotels on the beach. But okay. So second, use that water taxi. I loved it. I mean, I stayed on the West End on the beach. I took it in all the time. It goes to 20 different stops. It runs all the way to midnight. It's reliable. It's safe. They even give you commentary about all these rich and famous people who've lived there on these big houses, who's getting a divorce, what happened to them, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? So you get a tourist commentary too, which, some people, I guess they don't want to hear it, but, it brings the whole area and the mystique. You understand it a little bit more. So do take that. And it's especially beautiful at night, all the lights and going on the dark water and coming into the different harbors and stops and those gorgeous yachts. Oh, I mean, there were yachts that rented for $600,000 a week. I mean, these This is like a whole different,
It's a different world, yeah.
a whole different galaxy.
That goes beyond the scope of affordable luxury. I'm just going to say that right now.
That goes beyond the scope of ultra luxury. That is in a stratosphere that, shh. Okay, then a little bit about my visit, because that'll goes into my next hint, is like after the conference ended around 12, I checked out, got my bags, and I headed to the water taxi, which all I had to do is walk down to the Intercoastal, which is like 3 blocks from my hotel, and I caught it. So I finally got to Los Olas at around 1:30 or 2. And I mean, I was starving, famished. I really didn't eat very much breakfast. I thought, I have got to eat something or I'm going to pass out. So I walked, a block from where the first stop is. And you need to, if you want to go to where I'm going to talk about, you need to get off the first stop because there's actually 2 Los Olas stops. One at the Stranahan plantation and one, the first stop where I got off. Well, I got off. And I walked to Los Olas Boulevard. And right there on the right is this restaurant called Mangoes. And I looked at it. It was kind of brightly colored. The windows were all big and open. There was seating in a, outdoor kind of patio-like seating along the street. Music coming out. And I thought, well, I'm going to go in here. They probably have good mango daiquiris or there's something, because the music just sounded so good. So I went in there, and I mean, there were all of these seniors in there. And I mean, when I tell you they were dressed nicely, but not formally, but they were like, they had, quality threads on for sure. They were all there talking and everything. There's music in the room behind. So I asked, you could have come in because I thought maybe it was a private party or something. He said, no. We are having a function in the back, but come on. So I was seated. And I got tuna tartare and a glass of white wine, which was perfect. It just hit the spot. And so I asked the waiter later, I said, because I was noticing all of these older people, they were kind of, I don't know if they were flirting with each other, but it would look like a lot of it. But I kind of thought, golly, this reminds me of like freshmen in college or whatever. Everybody's trying to get to know each other. So I asked her, I said, does this go on all the time? Well, she said, all the time. She said, and I said, well, is this a special place? She said, all of these restaurants along here are kind of like that, because people really like to socialize. She said, but we're kind of like the it place right now because they completely renovated and now they have a daily DJ or live entertainment. And so these people come down there for good food, socializing, they're dancing. And I mean, I'm telling you, they had all of these lighted tables and everything. I thought, this is really, really, really cool. I mean, most older people who don't have the opportunity to socialize, they can't do this. But if you live in this area, you can come down here and, if you don't have a significant other or whatever, you can bring your girlfriend and you can just sit and laugh and watch everybody. Or maybe you get asked to dance and you remember how to dance again. You know what I'm saying? But it was so sweet. It was so wonderful. And there wasn't just only older people in there. But at this time, at like 2:00 in the afternoon, they were ready to roll, ready to party. So stop in at Mangoes. Yeah. I mean, even if you're not older, it's got a really great vibe. And one of the things, I couldn't figure out how they did this, but I guess, I don't know anything about DJing and videos and music, but they have all these TVs everywhere around. And even if you're not in the back room where all the dancing and everything's going on, and this particular day was a private party, but you can watch the video screens, and they have like videos that are in sync with the music. So like if it's a, Lady Gaga thing, her song, she's doing a music video. So you're watching that. So it's like you're not even bored, if you don't if you're there solo. And I must say somebody did try to talk to me, but I was like, oh, I'm not the type. I mean, I gave a real bad vibe because I really didn't want to say hello to anybody. I was just so hungry I wanted to eat. But I thought, this place really, this is really, I thought it was so wonderful that it's there. It kind of reminded me of a real posh skating rink. We used to go roller skating and everybody would hang out there, and that's how you'd be. So, enough about mangoes, but do drop in for at least a drink. And they do have mango martinis. They got all kinds of mango things, but I wasn't in the mood for mango. Shops and galleries that stood out to me. The National Geographic Fine Art Gallery. If you like photography, or even if you're not into it, you should go in there because they have photographs that they frame and sell as fine art that are unreal. They are unreal. You feel like you can step totally in them. And they capture such unique split seconds in time, emotion, light, content. I mean, great photographers are fantastically creative. They see things that normal human beings do not. And to be able to capture it just at that right split second and make it come alive just perfectly, it's really wonderful. And National Geographic, that's one of their focuses. So that is a must. Even if you don't like photography or art, you should do that just as a learning experience. Okay, next one, Lily Pulitzer. I mean, I really do think in that shop they've got almost something for every type of fashionista. It's amazing. They've kind of moved. I don't want to say they moved away from tropical kind of classic American looks, but it's more than that. And I guess in this particular store, and also the brand, they've had to do that to survive because of the international and just the styles are, classic Lily Pulitzer, she probably only could have 5 stores and still make it work. But I think they're trying to branch out and make it have a lot more depth to it. So this store is great. It is something else. So also when you go, you don't want to dine inside. You want to, if you can, especially if the weather's not hot and humid, sit outside because it is just, there's something about it. And even in this area, it's not exactly right on the water, but it's close enough so you get those breezes and those palm trees and you hear that. And it's really, you start just forgetting about everything else.
Well, it sounds so atmospheric. It's just nice.
It is. And it's got such a nice vibe there. You feel safe. It's upscale. It's not stiff. You don't think it's just not for people who I think are not real. I didn't get any of that vibe there, and that's pretty hard to do. So it's a lot of good people watching. If you like to go and kind of analyze, it's fun to just sit there. So sit outside when you eat. If you like historic preservation, the Stranahan Plantation, Post Office, Community Center, it's got the interior decorated still and the whole thing. And so if you like that kind of thing, it's there to be visited. One tip is don't go after 4 o'clock because I did the second day and it was closed already. I was so aggravated. I said, "You close at 4?" I didn't want to say, I guess I'd go into happy hour. But yes. And last, don't rush your time when you get in this area. I said that at first, but really relax and enjoy just this Las Olas lifestyle. And I can forewarn you, you might end up considering retiring there, because after a couple of hours, you're going, this is just, I love it here. I feel so comfortable here. So, I have to say that this Las Olas Street and Las Olas District really is one of the most compelling upmarket areas for retirees and international tourists that I've seen really anywhere in my U.S. travels. I really do think they've got a special balance here, and I hope they don't overbuild. I don't think they can, because there's not that much land. I know there's not all the condo towers are filled up, but they're working on it because they did build a lot of them. But it's got the right balance of like I've shared in the entire show, old and new, cool and quaint, sophisticated, relaxed. You never know. That might be where I retire. So that's it for today. And I want to thank all my listeners. I hope this has been informative and you've enjoyed listening to it. And of course, please subscribe. It does help me. It does help get the show pushed out to more people. And because we're focused on solo travel and especially affordable luxury types of ideas, etc., it does help other people who are looking for this kind of information, and they get it. So, but that said, I'll see you next week.
Where else can you come to be transported to another place like Astrid transports you? So if you are considering retiring and or just visiting Las Olas, we know that you've got to pack your bags. So you know what we have? We have Astrid's amazing packing list. It's complimentary. All you have to do is go to her website, astridtravel.com. Go ahead, right there on the homepage. You can download it right away. This podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, any finer place that podcasts can be found. Like Astrid said, we love our subscribers. We love those who rate us. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week on Solo Travel Talk.
Thank you for listening to Solo Travel Talk. Follow Astrid on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. To learn more about Astrid or Solo Travel Advisors, visit our website, astridtravel.com.